So let's zoom out. Do you remember how? Just tap Z and E or zoom extents or click on that upper right window. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use the traverse function to show you how that works to extend a center line from the west property line. So press geometry and then press set points. And what that does is set points along a line or arc that you snap to. So we're going to snap to the west boundary line with the mouse left button. And you're going to notice a green arrow and a red arrow. That shows where the line begins and the line ends. Again, curves are always going to be counterclockwise, but it's going to show the arrows anyhow. A prompt will show you enter 25 feet to go 25 feet from the green to the red and press submit, and it will put a black diamond onto that line to show the point has been computed. We're going to press geometry and then press traverse. We're going to traverse from that line, and you'll snap to the point for reference point, and on the prompt you'll go 87 degrees, 04 minutes, 36 seconds, southeast, 200 feet. Now on the lessons in chapter 1, it teaches you all about survey entry. If you're a surveyor or engineer, you would already know this, but maybe you're not. So it shows you all about how surveyors and civil engineers would enter their course data, and this is pretty standard. There's different ways you could enter. The prompts are intelligence. So you could do S for south, 87.0436. 04 would be 04 minutes, 36 afterwards be 36 seconds. And then E space 200 feet. That would also work, but that's a lot more work. It all depends on how you want to enter, but that's all in the help under the manual. Or you can purchase the separate text printed manuals, and then you don't have to use the help button. So that's how you would enter 870436 southeast. Now, how did we know that? Well, if you look at the upper right part of the screen, it's north 2 degrees, 55 minutes, and 24 seconds east. And we want to go 90 degrees, so we do the math in our head and we come up with that. Is that easy? No, it's not easy, but we're going to show you a much easier way. We just want to show you how the traverse function works. That's how you would put in legal descriptions or manually enter course data. And then when you press submit, the line will show that it traversed that and then shows 200 feet. Now you could have used instead, to eliminate all of that, the 90 degree and radial function under geometry, and then snap to the reference line, and then snap to the existing point, and then it would have created essentially the exact same data that you would need without entering any degrees, minutes, seconds. So now we've got that line, the center line coming from the west road, and we have the little piece of curve. We're going to create a fillet. If there's any active prompts, you could press any of those 8 major function buttons and it will get you out of the prompts. So that way you don't necessarily have to press escape. And you could do that at any time. Press arc and then press fillet. So you could snap to the line that you just created with the mouse left button, and then the curve with the left button, or the opposite. Doesn't matter on the order. It could be 2 curves, it could be 2 lines, and then at the prompt, look at the upper left corner of the screen here, on the prompt that will show up, type in 200-foot radius and then submit. That prompt, of course, will be on the right side. There'll be 4 pie-shaped shapes that appear. So that line and that arc intersect in 4 different locations. So as you move your mouse into these 4 locations, they'll turn from red to where the mouse is will be yellow. So what you'll want to do is move into the yellow part. Now, when you're in that yellow part, you would use the mouse left button to set it, but before you set it, you could also increase or decrease the radius graphically by the mouse middle scroll button. It will show the radius at the upper right window when you're doing this, or you could also set the adjustment. Typically, it's going to adjust by 10 feet default, unless it's a very tight radius. Then it will go down to 5 feet. And if it's a really tight radius, 1 foot. Let's say it's a very loose radius, like maybe the radius is 5,000 feet. We don't want to go 10 feet at a time. It'll automatically set so that the scroll button would be a much larger increment. So, but you can control the increment and fine tune it with the right button and then play with it with the middle button and then set it. In this case, we're just going to set it at 200 foot with the mouse left button. And now you have a perfect reverse curve and it's perfectly tangent to that line. And this way you're able to graphically design with curves much, much faster than normal coordinate geometry, and then have a visual experience. It's much easier. Beginning step 8, we're going to create some lots here. Note on the street that we have, we did not use the cul-de-sac of the streets, which is a standard cul-de-sac. We took less than a minute to create something much more beautiful and interesting, and all those radiuses are greater than the minimums of the ordinances. And again, the word minimum here is a magic word. As long as we exceed beyond the minimum, it's approved. There is no argument there, but it's a much nicer looking cul-de-sac than that standard button press. We're going to set the layer to lot layer, and then I want you to zoom in on those 3 lots that you created earlier. In the geometry menu, press geometry, and you'll notice we are in lot layer, so we're going to create lot lines on that layer. Press intersect. That will intersect any type of lines or arcs. Now, there may not be an intersection point on 2 arcs if they're too far apart. So we're going to snap to the south boundary line. And by the way, it doesn't matter order on which you snap to first or second, but snap to the south boundary line using the left button. Then snap to the line on the middle house there. Snap to the magenta line shown. You'll see a black dot diamond on the south line. And then snap to that little angle by the garage on the left house with the mouse left button, and you'll see another point appear, and press escape. So the diamonds are the newly created points. We'll hit intersect again. This time we're going to snap to the arc, and then we're going to snap to that same line, that angle line on the garage with the mouse left button, and you'll see a circle appear on that arc. So there, it will tell you, there'll be a little warning that should come up and say that the other option is off screen, because there's really 2 answers when a line and an arc appear. The software isn't going to know the answer you want, but generally it's going to be the one closest to the mouse. But to just get in the habit of going over the circle and then verifying that's the one you want with the mouse left button. So a arc is a 2-step approach. There's only 1 step with a line-line intersection, so it doesn't ask you that. And then you'll see a point on the curve. And you'll repeat the same thing for the line that you did earlier. So now we have the 4 points to create 2 lot lines. So you'll press make line, because we're going to make a line between those points, using the right button of the mouse, not the left button, because the left button creates a point. Snap to the point on the arc, then snap to the point on the property line, and it will make a line between those 2 points on layer 3, which is your lot layer. Press the middle button of the mouse, because we want to create a new line between 2 points, and it will say that on the prompt. Snap to the mouse right button to snap to that point on the curve, and then the mouse right button to snap to that new point on the line, and it creates those 2 lot lines. So the scenario is you're going to pass lot lines through those points, through those phantom lines, which are right at the minimums. And we're going to create a lot, because the magenta's lines are all within the arc and above the line, the lot will be legal. And generally it will meet or actually exceed the square footage of the regulations. And then press escape when you're done. And then you could experiment with this and get used to it. And, this is the main way that you would create a subdivision. So you're looking at the living spaces, looking out the windows, looking at the streetscape, what's the effect that you want? And this is something that you play with. It might take you a week to play with it. It might take you longer, but go ahead and play with this and experiment with it. It's not putting the streets in and then the lots and forgetting everything else. It's looking at the architecture and the planning and a holistic approach. So once these are in, we're going to split the lines into individual entities. So you'll press geometry, and then we're going to use the split function. You'll press split, and then all of the areas where you created the points, you simply snap to the lines and the arcs. And then we're going to take a look at the larger area, and we'll see that the dimensions are redimensioned using the split function. That's how the split function works. So if you create points on the lines and the arcs, and then use a split, it verifies your geometry that there were no mistakes. So that's what the split function tells you when the annotation is redistributed. Every point along the split line or arc, if it's within 6 decimal places of accuracy, it will split. Now internally we take everything to 20 decimal places. So 6 decimal places is fairly reasonable for the geometry. If it doesn't read dimension, you made a mistake. So fix that mistake. So review that you're using points to determine a rough radius and relationships. We use it graphically. Try to save the tree. And allow decisions that result in clean, rounded, curved design. You then built a centerline from this data from the west boundary using the traverse function. It would have been easier with the 90-degree function, but we wanted to give you a little example how the traverse function worked. You learned that the temporary layer is used to pass lot lines through, and you learned the split feature automatically re-annotates your geometry to prepare for the creation of shapes or the parcel of lots. So now we're going to create the shapes, but before we do that, let's read in step 9, and you'll see that the lot lines have been created for you and all the splits have been done. Press drafting, and under drafting, press text. In the text box, press the number 1, and then also enter 1 to increment by 1, and press submit. And then place the mouse into this southwest lot and press the left button and a 1 will appear. And repeat for each lot until you get to the last lot. And it will automatically number within those lots. So now you've got the lot numbers that you'll know what to call the lots and the order of the lots, and it's all split. But you have to isolate the line work because, first of all, the setback line is split on the side lot lines. So when we snap into an area to get the area and define it, it needs to be a closed area, but it's going to be closed at the front setback line. We don't want that. We simply want layer 0, boundary, 2, right away, and 3 lot lines. So go to the layer and a pop-up comes, and we could deactivate everything layer by layer and then activate it. That's kind of tedious. So instead, you're going to go layers to set 0, 2, 3. It could be spaces or slashes. It doesn't matter. And then set only. The screen refreshes with only those active layers. So when you set only those are seen, and those are the only layers that'll be used to define the lot areas. So go to surfaces, by name, you click the right button. You'll notice the button on the upper right part of that function. You'll notice the mouse button on the upper right side of the function. It shows the right button. So that means there's a shortcut, and you'll see the pop-up appear. We did that in lesson 1. It's just the same. We're just repeating it here. Now, you'll want the lot function. So you'll double click on lot. You'll go to lot 1 with the left button, and it defines the lot. The area is shown up at the upper right corner, and then it shows the left button to create the lot 2 on the prompt. So go to lot 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keep on snapping the lots with the remaining lots with the left button, and then at the end, press escape. Well, as you'll see, lot 14 is 8220.45. Each time you go into area, it will show you the square footage and the acreage. So what's the tolerance of error for a shape to be assigned a surface and filled? What's that tolerance of error? There is no tolerance. Either it closes perfectly or it doesn't. If it doesn't close perfectly, the software will not allow you to make a surface. It's a huge protection from mistakes in land surveying. And then you have the comfort that everything's going to be exact. Now what we're going to do is isolate layer 11, which is a curb line of the street, and then hit set only. And all you'll see is layer 11. But we have a problem. We can't just snap into the street because it's got an island. So we got to create two areas of the street. And to do that, we're going to go to the temporary layer again. So go to the temporary layer, but it's not active, so it's going to ask you if you want to activate it. So yeah, say yes. Go to geometry, make line again. You'll notice how many times we're using make line. That is a major function within the software for everything you're going to do. Everything. So press make line, and using the mouse right button, snap to the point that's at the reverse curve. So you're going to have to kind of visualize that. And then a right button opposite, and a line will appear on layer 13. You press the middle button of the mouse to begin a new line, and then again the point of reverse curve, right button, and then press escape. And now you have two pieces of the street. So you'll be able to go to surfaces, right click, pave. So you want to go again, right click the button, pave, double click it, and go to the two pieces of pavement, and it will fill it in with a paved texture, and that's how you create that, and hit escape. So we're going to need to get rid of layer 13. So edit, delete, all elements by layer. Under edit, select that, and you'll get this layer delete pop up. What you want to do is highlight 13, and then using the arrow or simply drag it to the right, the selected, and press done. And when you do that, it will verify that you do want to remove those two elements. Press OK, and then they're erased. So does erasing lines and arcs erase the points at the ends of the lines of the arcs? The answer to that is no. If it did, it would have a domino effect, and we don't want that. So how many polylines did we generate today? How many polylines? None. Land is defined by lines and arcs. This is a land surveying centric system. There are no polylines in land surveying. So we go back to the basics. So everything that is defined, we want defined for surveying purposes. So everything is a line and arc. We do have polylines that you'll learn in the last lesson. So press Q to go back to quickly activate all the layers. Q is a flip switch. It goes all the layers or the previous layers, and then press the overall button just by pressing that top button there, or pressing Z and E for zoom extents. So the review, the end of this lesson, before we go on to the next one, is you place the main emphasis on the living experience of the homes, not the placement of the lots, not with the views that the cars will see out of the garage, but the views that people will see out of the homes. Use temporary lines to represent the minimum distances as a guide for lot lines and boundary lines. Use the precision of the drawing to redimension the annotation for the plat, and use the same precision to create parcels, shapes. You learn how to define areas by name, which will be used to query on the site in the next section. So that's the end of this 3rd to 4 lessons. It teaches you the theory. By now you should be used to pressing the buttons, used to the interface, so we put you through a little bit of work here. But it's only a beginning. Practice this technique. It's a different way to think, and that's what this is all about, is thinking differently to create better places for people to live, to create more comprehensive plans that you'll be able to communicate better with, to set you up for the interactive 3D, and it really balloons from here.